Welcome back, first grade friends. I'm so happy to have you join me today for Unit 2, Module A, Lesson 2. Today we will be rereading A Fine, Fine School by Sharon Creech and pictures by Harry Bliss to look for clues that help us with our lesson today. Good writers understand that opinions are supported by reasons. We are going to focus on the characters in A Fine, Fine School. We can explore the opinions that the characters form in the story, and we can form our personal opinions of the characters in the story. Our learning intention and success criteria for today says, in this lesson, we are learning how to identify key details about the characters in a story. We will know we are successful when we can identify the characters in a story and describe the characters using key details. We will be rereading A Fine, Fine School, written by Sharon Creech and illustrated by Harry Bliss. Let's see how much of the story you remember, and I hope you will read along with me today. Mr. Keene was a principal who loved his school. Every morning he strolled down the hallway and saw the children in their classes. He saw them learning shapes and colors and numbers and letters. He saw them reading and writing and drawing and painting. He saw them making dinosaurs and forts and pyramids. "Oh," he would say, "aren't these fine children? Aren't these fine teachers? Isn't this a fine, fine school?" Near Mr. Keene's school, Tilly lived with her parents and her brother and her dog, Beans, in a small house next to a big tree. On Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, Tilly went off to school. Did you notice our first vocabulary word for the day highlighted in the text, boys and girls? Our new vocabulary word today is strolled. Strolled means the act of walking in a relaxed or unhurried manner. In the sentence, every morning he strolled down the hallway and saw the children in their classes, the word stroll would mean Mr. Keene was walking slowly and took his time to notice things going on in the classroom, kind of like when you go to the zoo. When you're walking at the zoo, you would probably want to take your time so you didn't miss anything. So that is what Mr. Keene is doing when he's strolling through the school. At school, Tilly learned her shapes and her colors and numbers and letters. Sometimes when she saw Mr. Keene standing in the hallway, he waved. "Aren't these fine children?" he said to himself. "Aren't these fine teachers? Isn't this a fine, fine school?" On the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, Tilly climbed her favorite tree, and she took Beans on walks and threw him sticks, and she pushed her brother on a swing and tried to teach him how to skip. And I can see from the illustrations that they show on the page, Tilly is climbing her favorite tree. And she says, "I'm stuck. Get help." I can also see from this illustration, Tilly is trying to teach Beans to fetch the stick. It says, "Let go now, Beans." And then finally, this bottom illustration shows me a picture of her brother trying to learn how to skip. And he thinks to himself, "Be one with the skip." Did you notice that we have another vocabulary word highlighted in the text today, boys and girls? In the sentence, sometimes when she saw Mr. Keene standing in the hallway, he waved. The word waved means to give a signal with one's hand by moving it back and forth. I really like it when I see my first grade friends and they wave at me. It lets me know they are happy to see me. I can tell by looking at the illustration on the page. Tilly is very happy to see when Mr. Keene waves at her. What do you think, boys and girls? But on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, Tilly went off to school. Beans and her brother did not like to see her go. "Hurry, hurry, hurry home," her brother called. One day, Mr. Keene called all the students and teachers together and said, "This is such a fine, fine school. I love this school. Let's have more school. From now on, let's have school on Saturdays too." The teachers and the students did not want to go to school on Saturdays, but no one knew how to tell Mr. Keene that. He was so proud of the children and the teachers, of all the learning they were doing every day. And so that Saturday, Tilly set off for school. "But it's Saturday. What about the swings?" her brother called. The following month, Mr. Keene announced, "This is such a fine, fine school. I love this school. Let's have more school. From now on, let's have school on Sundays too." The teachers and the students did not want to go to school on Sundays, but no one knew how to tell Mr. Keene that. He was so proud of the children and the teachers, of all the learning they were doing every day. And so that Sunday, Tilly set off for school. "But it's Sunday. What about the skipping?" her brother called. The following month, Mr. Keene called everyone together and said, "This is such a fine, fine school. I love this school. Let's have more school. From now on, let's have school on holidays too. On Easter and Ramadan and Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah, on all the holidays on every calendar." The teachers and the students did not want to go to school on holidays, but no one knew how to tell Mr. Keene that. He was so proud of the children and the teachers, of all the learning they were doing every day. And so, on Christmas, Tilly set off for school. But it's Christmas! What about Christmas? Her brother called. The following month, Mr. King called everyone together and said, "This is such a fine, fine school. I love this school. Let's have more school. From now on, let's have school in the summer too, all summer long, every single day." "How much we will learn," he said. "We can learn everything. We will learn all about numbers and letters, colors and shapes, the Romans and the Egyptians and the Greeks. We will learn about dinosaurs and castles and everything. We will learn." The teachers and the students did not want to go to school on Saturdays and Sundays and holidays and all summer long, every single day, but no one knew how to tell Mr. Keene that. He was so proud of the children and the teachers, of all the learning they were doing every day. And so, on the first day of summer, Tilly set off for school. "But it's summer! What about summer?" her brother called. And that day, Tilly went to see Mr. Keene. She stood in his office in front of his desk. "What a fine, fine school this is," Mr. Keene said. "What amazing things everyone is learning." "Yes," Tilly said, "we certainly are learning some amazing things." "A fine, fine school," Mr. Keene said. "But," Tilly said, "not everyone is learning." "What?" Mr. Keene said. He looked very worried. Who isn't learning? Tell me, and I will see that they learn." "My dog Beans hasn't learned how to sit," Tilly said. "And he hasn't learned how to jump over the creek." "Oh," Mr. Keene said. "And my little brother hasn't learned how to swing or skip." "Oh," Mr. Keene said. "And she said. "But you go to school," Mr. Keene said, "to our fine, fine school." "True," Tilly said, "but I haven't learned to climb very high in my tree, and I haven't learned how to sit in my tree for a whole hour." "Oh," Mr. Keene said. "And I noticed from the illustrations that Beans is pushing her little brother in the swing, and her little brother says, 'Wrong way, Beans.'" That day, Mr. Keene walked up and down the halls, looking at the children and the teachers. Up and down he walked, up and down, up and down. The next morning, Mr. Keene called everyone together. The children and the teachers were very worried. Mr. Keene said, "This is a fine, fine school with fine, fine children and fine, fine teachers, but not everyone is learning." The children and the teachers were very, very worried. Mr. Keene said, "There are dogs who need to learn how to sit and how to jump creeks. What did he mean? Was he going to make their dogs come to school? There are little brothers and sisters who need to learn how to swing and how to skip. What did he mean? Was he going to make their younger brothers and sisters come to school too? The children and the teachers were very, very, very worried. And you, all of you, children and teachers, you need to learn how to climb a tree and sit in it for an hour, Mr. Keene said. The children and the teachers were very worried. And I can see from the illustrations, the kids are in line and learning how to climb a tree. And Mr. Keene says, 20 minutes to go. And from now on, we will not have school on Saturdays or Sundays or holidays or in the summer. A huge, enormous roaring cheer soared up to the ceiling and floated out the windows so that everyone in the town heard the fine, fine children and the fine, fine teachers shout, "Fine, fine, fine!" And the fine, fine children and the fine, fine teachers lifted Mr. Keene up, and they carried him down the hallway and out the doors through the town, up and down, in and out, and everywhere they went, the people said, "What a fine, fine school! With such fine, fine teachers and fine, fine children and a fine, fine principal." Now that we have read our story twice, I bet you will be good at answering the reading comprehension questions today, boys and girls. This would be a great place to pause the video to get your pencils and paper ready to write down your answers so that you can share them with your teacher later. The questions on this page, we will be using pages 9 and 10 from our story, A Fine, Fine School, to find our answers. You may want to use the text or the illustrations to help you with your answers. Our first set of questions says, what does Tilly do on the weekends? What does that tell you about Tilly? So with these questions, I can go up and I can look at page 9 and I can use the text to help me, or I could use the illustrations. Looking at the illustrations, I can see some of the things that Tilly likes to do on her weekends. What does that tell you about Tilly? Our next set of questions says, how does Tilly's brother feel when she goes to school? Why do you think he feels this way? With these questions, I can go up to page 10 and I can read, but on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, Tilly went off to school. Beans and her brother did not like to see her go. "Hurry, hurry, hurry home," her brother called. How do you think Beans and her brother feel? Look at the illustrations. Do they look very happy that Tilly is going to school? What do you think? This would be a great place to pause the video to write your answers. On this page, we're going to use page 11 to help us with our answers. You might want to use the text or even the illustration to help you find your answers. Our first question says, how is Mr. King different from the teachers and the children at the school? Let's think about Mr. King. What did he think about the teachers? What did he think about the children? What did he think they should be doing on the weekends? What did the children and the teachers want to do? Our last questions say, pretend you are Tilly. What are some things you like about your weekends? What are some things you like about other days of the week? So this question requires us to put on our thinking cap, boys and girls, and make our own opinions. So we won't find this answer in the book. This answer is going to be about what you like and how you feel. What are some things that you like to do on the weekends? What are some things that you like to do other days of the week? This would be a great place to pause the video and write your answers. We have now come to our writing activity for your journal today. Remember, boys and girls, this is an optional activity, but if you would like to join me today, this would be a great place to pause the video while you get your pencils and journal ready. In your journal writing activity today, you will add a reason for the opinion you wrote yesterday in your journal. First, reread the opinion you wrote about Mr. King. Then think about why you felt that way. Next, make a list of 2 to 3 reasons why you may have felt that way. Be sure when creating your lists to only use information to support your reason from what you have read in the story. Finally, from your list of reasons, write a sentence that supports your opinion of Mr. King. You may choose to rewrite your opinion and add the word because and then state your reason. So let's think. We learned yesterday that an opinion was how we think or feel about something. Today, we're going to list our reasons why we feel that way. So go back and reread the opinion you wrote of Mr. King. Then go to your journal and to make a list, use a different line for each reason. So think about, why did you feel that way about Mr. King? And then write your reason down. And then you might think, what made you feel that way? And write your reason down. And finally, look at your list of reasons and then rewrite your sentence that supports your opinion of Mr. King. So yesterday we used I think and then wrote our opinion of Mr. King. Today when we rewrite our sentence, we're going to write I think and then write my opinion of Mr. King and add the word because and then state your reason why you thought that about Mr. King. Now let's check and see how we did with our learning intention and success criteria today. In this lesson, we are learning how to identify key details about the characters in a story. We will know we are successful when we can identify the characters in a story and describe the characters using key details. Remember, boys and girls, the characters in a story are who the story is about. Who were the characters in our story? What did you learn about them? Based on what we've read, how would you describe them to someone that hasn't read the story? Boys and girls, you are becoming such good readers. Thank you for reading with me today. Have a great day, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for another reading adventure.